Dave Beasing from Sound That Brands with Whitney Phaneuf and April Kilcrease, the executive producers of the Via podcast, which is produced by them in conjunction with their roles at Via. It's all kinds of online content and print content and everything, and they're in the podcast business too. They're the executive producers of the Via podcast, and the season two has just ended. Uh, can we please, drum roll, please, unveil how many downloads season two, just 10 episodes, season two got? Suspense is killing me.
350,000 downloads plus they're still trickling in. We're at
Never
about
ends.
353,000 downloads for this season and a total in 2 seasons of 613,000 downloads. So more than 500,000 people have listened and we can't even believe it. We're so thrilled.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And congratulations. That is a huge success story. After people see this podcast, I hope that people will check it out if they haven't that are watching this. Um, and that could double your numbers right there. I I doubt it, but we hope they will check it out because it's a fine example, a really great example of the content department at a brand, and this a beloved brand that many of us have grown up with. Our parents had it, all of that. Moving into the future with content with podcasts. So, to what do you attribute your success?
I'll let April talk a bit too, but I do think from the beginning we had a focus on storytelling. We wanted to make a travel podcast. We're a travel magazine for a road trip brand, a driving brand. And it was really important to have a feeling that aligned with the brand. And I think we're feel good, we're wholesome, we're family oriented. And we want to make people feel warm inside. And that's kind of what AAA does. And that's what Via Magazine does, which has been around since 1917. So we kind of gelled that all together and said, let's tell unique stories about the West. And April finds us amazing guests. And that's a really huge part of that.
It is.
Yeah, I think those exciting guests that people have heard of that already have a connection to. So you're drawing in people that maybe aren't thinking about AAA at all, but they love birding and they've read Noah's book. And so they want to like hear this podcast. Or they're fans of Lulu Miller and Radio Lab already. And so they're excited to hear her in another context. And then we also have these hosts that have great chemistry that are just fun to listen to.
Yeah,
And
let's give them a shout out because they have grown so much, which is not to say they didn't hit the ground running with season one, but let's acknowledge them.
yeah, they've gotten so much more comfortable with, as you know, in the background, I talk about a lot, getting just being themselves, right, on
Yeah.
the air, not trying to be this like formal, polished personality, but just human, which opens up more humor. Like they're responding with their personal lives too. So we're getting a little insight to, Mitty and her boyfriend, and Michelle and her wife, and her 3 kids. And yeah, it's gotten way better in terms of getting to know them through their interviews with our guests.
I feel like I know them, and I do know them, but I think listeners share that. They feel like they know them, and a little bit about their lives. And it's not a podcast is not about them, but they certainly weave that into it. People form loyalties to people, and they are your hosts and a reason to listen, even if the next episode is about a part of the country that you may never road trip to. You want to hear what April and Whitney, no, what Mitty and Michelle are up to in the next episode.
Yeah.
Or
So,
even
what did you learn? Season one folded into season two. It just gets better and better. You've with even a few less episodes, you've done more downloads, a lot more downloads again this season. What lessons did you learn from season one that you think helped in season two?
April, you want to start?
um, uh, Mine is just really focused on the guests. And I think one thing that I learned from season one is not just to find a guest that I find interesting or Whitney and I find interesting, or even ones that, I think like a big audience would, but like that they'll also connect with Midi and Michelle. That
Mm.
I haven't like really learned to keep our hosts in mind.
Hmm.
Who are they going to vibe with? Who are they going to have a lively conversation with easily, naturally? Um, and I think that did make a difference.
Hmm. Yeah, I think our lesson from season one, perfect is the enemy of good. This is a medium where we need to be natural. We need to be on the fly. And the beginning of this, we were thinking about this a little bit like our print magazine. We're like, oh, they fumbled over these words. Oh, they said the wrong thing. And, sometimes we adjust in a pickup depending on what it is. Certainly, if it's an error and they're telling you something that isn't quite right. But most of the time, we've tried to let go and really know that the natural part of this, them laughing, them having fun, is so key to the success because if they're having fun, the listener is having fun.
Mhm.
But I mean, from our first episode, I think all of us were a little nervous, holding back, a bit withdrawn, feeling like, oh, we're representing this brand and we have to be so professional, like it's broadcast TV or, like I said, print. And this is just a whole different beast where,
Yeah.
we're competing with some of the most amazing voices and storytellers out there. And so we had to really focus on making it natural, making it fun, and letting go of some of our hangups that it's not going to be perfect every time.
They are human. I think you've just answered my next question, but I'm really curious. You both have extensive backgrounds in creating content, but as of last season, you'd never done a podcast. What aspects of the content creation that you've done before applied to this, and what was a little bit perhaps an adjustment that you needed to make in your thinking with podcasts? I think you just talked about one.
Yeah, we knew that we knew how to tell stories. So I think that set us up for success. We knew what a good story was. We knew what a good guest sounded like. April's like a hardcore radio nerd. She can talk about that. I also worked in public television and radio, but I wasn't on the radio, but I listened to it a lot. And I think you go back to like people remember how you made them feel. People remember the emotions of a story. That's what's high impact. And so a lot of this was like modeling after things that we loved. I think NPR podcasts are a huge inspiration for us. But there's many others that April can speak to. But ultimately, the storytelling prowess that we had from doing print magazines for so long and digital and all the other stuff that we do, that came into play here. And a big part of that is like screening these guests that April does to see can they tell a story? How do they engage with the hosts and the audience? But yeah, like I said, a lot of the lessons were around just a new medium for us and being like, okay, this is, this is its own thing and we create content just for this. But what we do also is cross promote everything in our emails, in our magazine, in yeah, our newsletter, all that. So there's
Smart.
a lot of cross pollination. So you see how all this content complements each other. And I think that's really fun too, that we're able to do that. Not all podcasts can. April?
Yeah, I think maybe I even see more of a similarity between print and podcasts than the two of you. Like, for me, I feel like it's at least the kind of podcast we're doing, where it's the interview based, is just so straightforwardly similar to a Q&A,
Hmm.
where you have an interview, you interview somebody, but it's not just like question answer and question answer. You're trying to shape a story through how you order those questions and build to kind of like a larger takeaway. And that's what we really did aim for. And like maybe we didn't always hit the mark in every episode, but we were always going for like that button at the end, that kind of like larger, deeper idea that we built through a conversation that just sounds very natural, but it is orchestrated behind the scenes, like with an outline. And as much as we wanted our guests, I mean, our hosts to feel like they were really being themselves, we did also find that when they followed an outline that built to that larger question, the episodes were much easier to edit in the background. And they just ended up being more cohesive and successful.
Not only is this podcast reaching a lot more people than 90% plus of the podcasts out there, you put so much more preparation into this podcast than over 90% of the podcasts out there. I think there's an illusion, a myth among many podcasters that you line up a guest, turn if you even have a guest, you turn on the microphones and the cameras and whatever, and half hour later you turn them off and there's your podcast. A lot of editing goes into it and after the fact as well, but you guys prep so that when that conversation happens, it may not seem to the listener that it's moving in a specific direction, but you have determined that it will.
Yeah, yeah. And we talked to our hosts about it beforehand too. So we're kind of all on the same page. Like, why are we talking to this person? Why are we talking to them now? What is that larger story that we're trying to tell, even with some of the initial chit chat in the beginning? Yeah.
And
So
the
let's talk about your membership, your listeners, your viewers. Uh, what about podcasting is appealing to AAA as a brand? I won't ask you to speak as the CMO now, but why do you think podcasting is good for AAA?
I mean, if you've been a AAA member for a while, well, that means you're probably a little older. Our demographic tends to be people over 50, 50, 55, because the brand was really instilled in them by their grandparents. It's a generational brand. My cousin showed me his card. I saw him last weekend. And he was born in the 70s, and his card says member since 1963 because his he went through his in-laws and he's just like, oh, this cracks me up every time I go to pull the card out. But I think we have that brand recognition, loyalty, and love from really through Gen X. Then we get younger, priorities are different with millennials, Gen Z. Some of them are on their parents' insurance for a long time, on their parents' card. Maybe they didn't make the purchase. And when they go to paying for something like AAA themselves, we want to make sure that they feel like this brand brings huge value to them. And part of that is being in their ears with a podcast and reaching them that way. They're probably not reading our print magazine, maybe a few older millennials, but this isn't the medium where they're getting their information from us. They're hopefully in our email system, but the podcast is a whole new audience for us, and it's younger. It's the people in their 30s, and we want them to get to know the brand and again feel that emotional connection to our brand. That's so important to us because it is. We pick people up on the side of the road when their car breaks down. There's not really anything more feel good than that. We're out to help you, rescue you, and also tell you about cool road trips and other trips. So we think that this podcast and the way that we've structured it really flows with what we want the brand to say and what the brand has been historically and where it's going. So letting them know, hey, this brand exists. This is what we do. We are not heavy-handed with the branding. We made a very conscious decision to not be because honestly, people would just stop listening if we started trying to sell this. But we were so excited. The first episode we recorded, oh no, it was the second episode we recorded in the first one that's in the very first season about Highway 50. The guest has a story about AAA picking someone up, and we were like so excited. We're like, oh, it came in naturally. And then the other piece of it that's important is telling these member stories. So every single episode has member stories in it. That's a time when your brain kind of goes, oh, yeah, this is a AAA podcast. But again, it's putting the members front and center.
Yeah.
But we want to get this younger generation engaged in our brand and hopefully joining. So, April, I'd say acquisition and awareness are the two key things. But hopefully, if you are a younger person who gets our email or a print magazine and you actually open it, you're seeing the podcast there and being like, oh, they have a podcast. Great. I love podcasts.
Hmm. This isn't just my parents' AAA.
To not your
Right.
parents, AAA, yeah, dude, that is the underlying theme that we would not say out loud. But yes, that is
It's
right.
she just said it out loud.
It's okay. It's,
We're all thinking
But
it.
in many ways, it is your parents' AAA. It's all the good things about your parents' AAA, but you're applying it in new modern ways, podcasting being one of them. And I find that I'm biased because I do podcasts for a living, but I find that what you just said about, oh, they have a podcast, that in and of itself is a great statement about the brand.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So whether they listen or not, and we hope they do, I looked at the stats just now, over 90% of the listeners are believed to be 30 to 49.
It's great. We have member stories in every single episode, and I'm very proud of that because some of them are hard won. We have these some of these are quite narrow topics. Like one of my favorite episodes from the current season is all about the Black rodeo boom. So we have to figure out a topic like that and like how do we generate member feedback, member stories of their own experiences. In this case, they talked about what rodeos mean to them, some of the rodeos that they recommend. Birding was another one. We got quite a few responses, I think, to birding. So we can really see too, in as we ask these questions over email to our members how engaged they are with a topic doesn't mean we're not going to cover it. Just means that it's a good indicator. And having those stories is so important. I don't, many of these members maybe don't even hear their stories read on the podcast, but other people do, and hopefully it makes them want to one engage with the brand and to get on our email and answer these questions for us because this is so important to bring humanness to the brand. And so aside from the hosts who are the face of the brand in this or the voice of the brand, so to speak, the members are the other piece of the voice and their recommendations are really good. These folks travel. They're as good as any guest, the host, any writer we have at the magazine. They have great ideas and they're just really passionate about, sharing them with people.
And then building it through social too, right? On
Yeah.
Facebook, on Instagram, like asking those same member questions there and getting responses and engagement through also video clips of season two.
I would imagine there are people who have never sat down or while they're driving on the treadmill, whatever, actually listened to an entire episode of the podcast, but they feel that they've been exposed to the podcast through those other channels. So
Mhm.
it's so smart not only to promote the podcast, but you're putting content in as many directions as you possibly can.
And you're seeing Mitty and Michelle's faces too with those clips from
Yeah.
Mhm.
the recordings and connecting not just with their voice, but their really
Mhm.
lovely smiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so much fun. I think we have a built-in audience. We got really lucky here. We have a distribution channel. I have an email that goes out twice a month with 1.6 million members on that email. And so that's a major advantage that we do use. And we build community that way. But we know even with, I don't know how many episodes we have, 23 episodes or something total, we're still educating this audience that, hey, we have a podcast. Hey, listen to our podcast because you don't know who's
Yeah.
opening it that day. You don't know who's scrolling on social media that day. And April and the whole team come together to really get that loudspeaker out and be as consistent as possible to get it in front of people.
Mhm.
Well, congratulations again. Over 350,000 downloads for season two of the Via podcast. And should we look forward to season three?
Yes, definitely. We have some amazing stories in mind for season three. We are brainstorming up a storm, and we hope to do maybe a few more episodes next season. We'll see, but we're really, really excited. We had a party at the office yesterday, a beautiful party to celebrate our Signal Award wins. We won two golds this year, and then the new issue of the magazine, which has the podcast all over it. And if you're not a AAA member at AAA Mountain West Group, you can engage with all of our content at AAA.com/via. Again, that's AAA.com/via. You can read all of our content there and really see what we're about, browse the magazine in a flip book, and also all the podcast information is there too.
Whitney Phaneuf, April Kilcrease, thank you for your time and thank you for the podcast.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you for all you do on your end.
Thank you.